New year, new look for season roundup. Winter 2020 honestly was great, which is why it was always so weird seeing people say it was a quote-unquote dry season when so many shows returned from the dead or simply the number of fresh ideas stealing the spotlight week after week. A season being supposedly dry usually means not enough people talking about what slapped week by week, which is why season roundup exists. So buckle in because there was plenty to enjoy from winter 2020 and here I am to showcase the gems. When this was first announced, I immediately was excited to see Madoka return to us for a full series, not just a movie or a spin-off OVA. I wasn't expecting the same magic as the original, but I honestly had high hopes that we would see another great magical girl series twisting the formula on its head rather than the edgefest we're generally used to seeing anymore whenever a magical girl series isn't fluffy and fun. Adapting a mobile game is a 50-50 for me, as half the time you get a clearly game designed story turned anime and there's nothing natural about it, or you'll get a team who actually adapts by changing content and ideas around to make it flow better for the medium in question. Change is crazy and taboo in the anime realm, I know, but as we can clearly see and as I've been told by countless game players, they took the ideas of the game and turned it into an anime story in the best way that anyone could possibly hope for. Or at least that's what most have told me anyway. As someone who's never played this game, what I watched was something honoring what came before, but also creating something completely unique and fresh all in the process. We don't follow a story where the cast know everything is horrible or they hate being a magical girl in the same way as the original anime, but what we do witness is a more personalized tale about lost friends and family backed by rumors taking shape in the form of intoxicating or horrifying threats as we watch rules of Madoka's world be shattered before our eyes because of one city luring everyone towards it. There's tons of personality and mystery here, and with how alive the city feels, it never feels like a copy and paste of the isolation of the last project, but rather a lively city with plenty of darkness to creep around every corner, with of course that shaft flare being alive and well all in the process. The creation of manga and anime is fairly common to have some angle be portrayed in the anime medium, but the difference between this and any other series is not only does the story present it in such a well-detailed way exploring both marketing and designing, but it's helmed by one of my personal favorite directors, Masaaki Yusa. The expressive and wild animation style he is known for perfectly lets this world come to life as these girls imagine their next creation. Visually it stands out among all the anime this season, while perfectly capturing the wonder that we all first felt when getting into this medium. The three leads all have distinct and genuine personalities with real purpose in this cast of characters, with my favorite character this season, Kanamori, being the brains of the operation, keeping everyone in line while making all the correct business moves. Whether you love educational content or just want fun, this anime slaps all the right notes and proves why we all love anime to begin with, because it's magical while teaching us a thing or two all in the process. Battle royales or any death game anime aren't usually my cup of tea, but every couple of years one generally tickles my fancy. But I've yet to find one I'd fully recommend without needing to say it's fun, but until Darwin's game. Or at least ones that are simply trying to be a battle royale and not something crazier like a Fate Zero. Darwin's game is no masterpiece, don't get it twisted, but it does most things right that it was aiming to be, by focusing on the mechanics of this D game where once opened you are a part of this battle to the death in an augmented world. The characters are interesting enough with motivations where you understand why they fight, and most of the attention was put into the mechanics of how this game operates, where there is a surprisingly amount of depth around every corner. The main lead is honestly the best character wise, since rather than jumping into a straight badass or casual nice guy who solves everything with talking, Kaname's transition into who he becomes feels quite believable. Besides Kaname, no character is all that well written, but there's enough attention put into them to be entertaining at worst, and the game is surprisingly well designed to make this feel good for what it was aiming to be, a fulfilling death game story with some slight bumps along the way. Rather than aiming to be some masterpiece in ways it could never be, the series aimed to be fun with detail put into all the correct areas that matter the most for an anime in this style. In doing so, we had a show be good at what it wanted to be, which is really refreshing. Think of the excitement you get when watching most shonens with high stakes or ones presented as such. Pretty exciting, am I right? That's honestly Smile Down the Runway. You might say to yourself, you don't care about fashion or runway modeling? Me neither. But this was one of the most intoxicating shows of the season. Between the two main leads, Iketo and Shuki, one aiming to be a top runway model despite a lack of height required, and another wanting to be a designer but held down by poverty and skills at times, both complement the other in pursuing their dreams as many obstacles stack up against them to block their paths. This show is intense, emotional, and educational, without ever being dry and boring about the world of fashion and the drama that comes with modeling. One of the more criminally underwatched shows this season, so please, 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 check it out. I think the best way to sell this series is it feels like it has soul. Anytime the lead characters interacted, I felt like I actually wanted to hear them talk as they had a personality, and rather than watching anime characters like we're used to, I felt like they were people with really unique mindsets. The story is designed to be a mix and match of ideas and genres ranging from the supernatural and mystery to comedy and romance. It's a grab bag of ideas that surprisingly worked out more than I initially thought it would. A lot of what makes it enjoyable is simply watching an episode and seeing all the little ideas click as bigger events come crashing down towards us. So you gotta do yourself a favor and try a couple of episodes out if you haven't already, because this is a story that's worth experiencing. Especially when the idea of yokai and balancing the two worlds of spirits and humans have been done so much, yet in a show like this is still finding new ways to make it feel refreshing and original. I fought against myself all season to figure out what was my favorite show of winter 2020, and it's probably this. Originality is just really hard to come by, as most ideas we think have basically been done before. But even when you have a similar concept to another person's idea, the execution of that idea will make it or break it, and with a world where you invade someone's identity to track down criminals, or in the case of the lead character, trying to uncover the true mystery of his family's murder and a mysterious man who always pops up when he invades these identities, you get a mind trip where both on a visual and written level you don't totally know what's happening, where with each episode the pieces start clicking more and more, and by the time the series concludes all of the madness makes a whole lot of sense. It's phenomenal, and one of the best shows you're probably going to watch this year, I'm damn sure about that. Now, I love the first season of Isekai Quartet, so of course I was excited to see more of my favorite goofballs, but this time backed by some new faces. While the new faces were more of a supporting cast and only really popped up every so often, it was still great to see even funnier sequences and fresh ideas on how to basically parody school anime with a reverse isekai direction. The show continues to be hilarious while staying true to the original source materials, just applied to such situations you'd normally think impossible to write in a respectable way by not ruining their characters, but here we are. You can make 10 seasons of this, and honestly it could last that long and keep me laughing for that entire time. I didn't expect to enjoy bopper at all, which is why I slept on it for half the season, but when I checked out episode 1 around the time episode 6 was released, I quickly binged what I had at my fingertips as my mouth watered for more. No trapped in a video game bullshit, no drama, just friends playing a game as immersive as they come, where we find new ways to break and exploit game mechanics in such a relatable way. While I can't personally play VR MMOs like these characters, the number of games I have played where either I've witnessed or aided in the breaking of said game and the experience for others is something I haven't really seen touched upon in an anime quite like this. Especially one where characters admit our lead character and her party are overpowered, and the game developers actively have to alter the world and mechanics to prevent more maples from ever being made. Not to mention, this girl names her pet turtle Syrup, so together they will be maple syrup. So why wouldn't you want to watch it for that idea alone? It's fun, it's refreshing, and make 100 episodes for all I care, because I'm going to keep watching and wishing VR was to this point already. Typically, director's cuts or rebroadcasts aren't something I check out or that I'm overwhelmingly enthusiastic about, but ReZero's director cut is well worth your time, whether as a first-time watcher or simply need to rewatch before the release of Season 2, as it's been a hot minute since we last saw Subaru, or at least Subaru not in a classroom, I might add. I'm fuzzy on many of the details from the first season, so most of this felt newer to me, but there's a few noticeable differences that definitely made my experience not only enjoyable as a rewatch, but even slightly more interesting at certain times. ReZero is amazing, and this was the perfect way to get everyone more excited for that second season in spring. Anytime anime pops up that have a parent-child dynamic, I honestly assume the worst the same way I do with sibling pairings. We all know what authors like to do more often than not, so let's not kid ourselves. Thankfully, we simply received a golem slowly becoming human as he quickly decays, as he cares for a little girl named Somali as he chases after humans in hopes to find her a home before his time runs out. The thing is, in this world humans are all but extinct, as the other creatures in this series had a beef with them because in human fashion, those that are different we don't typically get along with. It's one of the strongest parent-child relationships I've seen in anime, backed by some of the most gorgeous background detail you'll ever see. But I mean, when you bring in an outsider to the world of anime to create these set pieces, of course you're going to get a refreshing take on the fantasy genre with its backdrops. This is a must-watch and a dark horse of the season. It'll make you laugh or cry depending on the episode, and who doesn't love a good emotional roller coaster? If we could design an award for the unluckiest franchise of the past few years, I'd probably give this one because it takes the cake. Between lead animators having to lead mid-production, to production committees making bad decisions, to now the coronavirus causing multiple breaks, this franchise has it rough. Luckily, the content I did get to watch this season of Railgun has been some of the most enjoyable that the series has seen to date. It's just a shame we couldn't watch it consistently, at least weekly, as if I knew I'd be experiencing such delays, I'd probably have waited to start it. But if you do need to know if this season holds up to the past, it does, and at certain points of this arc, they were even better in my honest opinion. So can viruses just go away so people can be healthy again, please? I feel like most anime fans for a while would judge an anime based on its title and poster image, but after enough time we all recognize that some of the best anime have the weirdest if not worst titles and poster images. When you have toilet in the name, my gut reaction is, does this belong in the shitter? But then when I ended up watching it, it becomes pure gold, and it's why anime is such a blessing and a curse wrapped up into one. I love the title of this series, but I question it all at the same time. This is a show revolving around ghosts and the supernatural, and after a love wish gone wrong, one of the central characters, Yashiro, ends up connected with her wish granter Hanako longer than she expected. You watch relationships form and break as a mixture of dark and depressing is wrapped around comfy and hilarious. It's very difficult to balance the two formulas and not have one feel jarring at times, but the mixture of motion manga and traditional animation design with writing that feels raw and vulnerable really let this series take off. I expected it to be good after the first episode, but midway through, I was already calling it amazing. If you've seen Kaguya-sama Love is War, take that idea, but rather than characters competing to see who will say I love you first, you have geniuses using scientific theory and tests to determine if they love each other. I've seen this concept done before in other mediums, but usually it's from trashy shows that care more about references and laugh tracks than well thought out writing. So to have an anime be hilarious while making you care about the characters is quite great, especially with how they stretch the joke out by finding more and more ways to test an idea we all understand but have such a struggle to explain scientifically, such as does cooking with love taste better than normal food? How the hell do most agree that it tastes better with love, but logically there's nothing different? That's why this show is so great, and the dub is also surprisingly of a high quality, at least from what I've checked out so far. The first half of the latest season was as intense as it came, with the back half showing ideas in such a refreshing way that it goes back to its roots while continuing to push forward with new territory. Between the concept of what if a villain chased after social media clout to the aftermath and struggle to better yourself after the threat of overhaul seemingly has gone away, the past is never forgotten as these characters press on towards another day, and I continue to love my experience with this anime, and any drama that surrounds either the anime or the manga goes in one ear and right out the other. Do you see this? This right here is how you make Fate compelling again. High quality production, well written story with memorable characters backing them, and a healthy production not killing the animators. Not only do I want to see all of Grand Order adapted, I want this to be a lesson for the industry on how to deliver anime in a respectable way. Planned recaps well ahead of time do wonders and should be more common than insane crunch time. This is some of Fate's best, but you can probably tell by just looking at it. The show continued to be charming, hilarious, and a little dramatic at certain points, and to truly explain why I enjoyed the back half even more than Core 1, it would ruin the surprise for many. Just watch it because it's honestly refreshing in a world of anime when most things are either serious or dumb, yet Demon School is just charming with a unique identity. Now everyone hated on Babylon once it stopped having slasher moments, but as I've said and will continue to say, this is a political thriller and it was great. The idea of making an anime a biblical story but designed to be as an anime rather than a tale from someone's Bible provided some of the most unique ideas I've seen in quite some time. Open-ended and left to interpretation isn't a negative for me, so I enjoyed the final stretch quite a bit, and I'm fine with having an unpopular opinion, so be it. This wasn't the most polished of series, but with the limited resources the team had, it's impressive what they managed to pull off. At times the pacing can be rough, as can the visuals, but overall this level of brutality and maturity isn't seen enough in anime. But this is a story worth experiencing, and for those of us who have kept up with Blade of the Immortal, we pretty much all agreed this was criminally underappreciated. I actually have only seen a few episodes of this new Haikyuu season, as I personally prefer binging the series, and since season 4 doesn't actually end here, I'm gonna wait till it's all out to binge it. So I won't score it or anything, but I did want to throw out my thoughts on the new animation and art style, as I know people have their opinions about it. I'm personally torn about it, as some points I prefer it and how it feels more refined, but at others it doesn't feel as distinct at first glance as the prior seasons. I personally think both styles have their merits, but it didn't really ruin or change much of my opinion on Haikyuu other than it's fantastic and still one of the best sports anime ever made, so I'm not gonna complain. Same with Haikyuu, no score, just throwing some thoughts out, because people are going to ask me in the comments if I've seen this if I don't say anything about it. Personally, I wasn't the biggest fan of the production style. I actually have zero issues with how it's designed, just similar to how I love Starry Night, and I think that's the best painting to ever be made and probably will ever be made. Others might look at it and say it's boring and unappealing, while not saying it sucks, but rather just doesn't fit their preferences. I did actually start the manga, and I actually really dig it, so I recommend everyone to either watch it or read it because it's really unique. But now you can unbuckle your seatbelts, because if I watched any more anime I'd probably have exploded. There's tons I enjoyed from the winter season and plenty others I probably could watch and also get a kick out of. That's why I always pass the torch over to you and ask you to share your thoughts down in the comment section below. Whether you loved or hated something from this past anime season, feel free to share yours down below. If you enjoyed my ramblings, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you happen to be new around here. Now lastly, there's always my Patreon, where you can directly support the channel if you have an extra buck to kick around, but of course, that's always if you so wish. So until next time everyone, please take care and enjoy the next anime season.